On today's show, the Houston Rockets situation drastically changed when Fred VanVleet went out for the season with a torn ACL. You wonder some of the positions of need. You think of Sacramento, who's interested in Jonathan Kuminga, and can the three make a deal? Let's debate on today's Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
What are they going to say now?
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's the good word, everyone? Welcome into Locked On Warriors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode's brought to you Monday through Friday during the season, which has begun, at least in terms of podcasting. You can check us out on YouTube, wherever you get your audio podcast. We're always free, we're always available, and we go live after every single game. It's usually Matt Kolsky who goes live with me. Checking up on some emails, ready to talk some Golden State Warriors, Jonathan Kuminga, the Houston Rockets, the Sacramento Kings, and how all these things could potentially intersect for a deal. Or at least we'll talk about the hypothetical situation that it could happen. Hit that like, hit that subscribe. We very much appreciate it. My name's Charlie Walter, formerly 95.7 The Game in San Francisco. Also had someone on the show say, why do you say my name, Charlie Walter? I don't know. My name is Charlie Walter. I formerly worked at 95.7 The Game, and I also worked in TV for KPIX. All right, now that we dragged through that, Matt Kolsky, 95.7 KNBR, you heard him many times in the past on the radio. Let's get into this, man. How we feeling? Season's right around the corner.
I'm feeling great that we can talk about real things and not hypothetical things, although... Not
today we're talking hypothetical
things.
Yes.
But yeah,
fun ones today.
It'll be nice. Even God forbid, I hope it's resolved by Monday. But even if it's not, and when I say it, I think we all know what I mean. At least we'll get some quotes.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know. Like, it's all reports and suggestions and innuendo at this point, and even some quotes. Look, if Jonathan Kuminga is unsigned and untraded on Monday when media day happens for the Warriors, obviously a lot of people are going to be forced to talk about it. Nobody wants that. I mean, I heard Tim Kawakami and Marcus Thompson talking about how usually the Warriors have Steve Kerr and Mike Dunleavy, or whoever the coach and GM were at the time, speak this week, today or tomorrow. And obviously that's not happening. And I think the reasons for that are obvious. What would they say? But a full day of what would they say from the whole team is at least something interesting to discuss. So, we've got that looming. I still think something happens. I am maybe less confident that it's a happy outcome for everybody. But I still think something happens by Monday, whether it's a real contract, a qualifying offer signing, a trade, I don't know. But no one is served by this not being resolved in time for media day.
You want to be a matchmaker? Let's do it, right? Let's see if we can be a matchmaker for three teams, the Rockets, the Warriors, and the Kings, who all want something. We talked about what the Warriors want. It's just finding a solution to Jonathan Kuminga and turning him into something.
There. It's not just a solution. It's
turning him into something. It's not losing him for nothing. And apparently going on the qualifying offer and having a bought-in Jonathan Kuminga, which we doubt that would happen. But if that were to happen, that's still not good enough for Joe Lacob, or else they would have accepted that ballooned qualifying offer that they could have traded. But they want more than that.
Yeah. I mean, there are so many different dynamics and pushes and pulls at place in this situation, and we've talked about them all.
Mm-hmm.
But whether it's Kaminga participating in a useful way, whether it's trading him, whatever happens, if the Warriors do not get something out of the place on their team currently represented by Kaminga, they're in trouble, I think it's fair to say, in terms of maximizing the final 2 years of Steph Curry's current deal.
Yes, you never want to lose an asset for nothing. The Rockets lost Fred VanVleet to an ACL injury, which means that they are thin at that point guard position. We're talking thin to the point where it's going to be Aaron Holiday, Reed Shepherd, and maybe even Amin Thompson sliding over to play some point guard. And because of that, they're likely going to go into the season as is, see how Kevin Durant looks on the squad, and then maybe pivot come deadline if that's needed. But I'm thinking internally, the Rockets have something that everyone can play a deal here if we get the Kings involved and maybe even more teams. But the Kings want to get rid of Malik Monk, and that's what it sounds like. And they also want to land Jonathan Kuminga. The Warriors want something for Jonathan Kuminga, and then the Rockets want a ball handler, and I would imagine some shooting that they lost for Fred VanVleet. Now, hear me out. Money may not even work here. You'd have to dice this thing up tremendously, but I'm talking just starting points.
Have you looked at the money at all, just out of curiosity?
That would be an important factor of this. I took a glance at it. I did not throw it into the trade worker. Okay. Yep, the trade machine. So right. It may not work, but we're talking getting multiple teams involved and just a starting point. A starting point, and just would this make sense? A
basic framework, if you will.
Yes, the Rockets don't have the guard depth that I mentioned, but they do have tons of forwards, like centers and bouncy forwards and forwards that can step out. They have some redundant players that they wouldn't want to get rid of, but in this situation, maybe. Those two players, I think, are Tari Eason and Jabari Smith, who play like each other, and Jabari's always kind of been underplayed, it feels like. He could have a bigger role elsewhere. So I'm looking at this deal, and it would send Jonathan Kuminga to the Kings. It would send Malik Monk and some shooting, Buddy Hield, to the Rockets. Now, is Malik Monk a good enough ball handler? They're going to want him. Or Tari Eason to the Warriors. Again, financially, we may need to do a lot of tweaking, but just as basic structure, basic framework, do you like what I'm talking about?
I'm fascinated by it. I think it is in many ways the best the Warriors could hope to do for Jonathan Kuminga. I mean, let's just think about what we know, and I think it's been extensively reported now, almost reported twice as breaking news, that the best offer so far for Kaminga seems to have been Malik Monk and a first-round draft pick from the Kings, which, I think we have to guess in any given year is likely to be a decent draft pick, if not a top one, right? You got a good shot at the lottery if you're taking any Kings first rounder. So late lottery pick plus solid, energy burst scorer was not enough. I'm not sure how much the Warriors care about that first round pick, certainly now, but also just, the way it stands now, they're okay on picks once Steph Curry's out of here, and the focus, rightfully so, maximize what you can do with Steph Curry. And even if he signs another contract, the likelihood of him performing at a, near MVP level fades with every season. I'm never going to count him out. But the older he gets, the less likely it becomes that he performs at a near MVP level. So with that in mind, to get Kaminga out of here, which obviously I think is best for everyone at this point, not that it couldn't be worked out, but I think we can all agree best for everyone would be fresh starts. And get in return a guy in Tari Eason who many people have compared to sort of a younger, maybe a little lighter in the ass version of Draymond Green, and who does many of the things that Steve Kerr hates that Jonathan Kuminga doesn't do. I realize that was a convoluted sentence, but Tari Eason, at least in terms of an energy and effort perspective, and where he focuses his efforts on the court, does many of the things that Jonathan Kuminga does not, and would please Steve Kerr in that way. Let's
call it what it is. It's junkyard. It's that type of
dog. Yeah, he's a tough guy, but he's also smart. Mm-hmm. He's a good, smart defender. He's a good passer. He understands basketball, which I think is why he gets some of the Draymond comparisons.
Gives you an edge. Talks some, and his mom too.
Has talked some trash to the Warriors, in fact, right? So listen, I like the player. He's obviously lower ceiling than Kaminga. Jabari Smith, though, I guess is also probably maybe lower ceiling than Kaminga in some ways. If you project, if you're saying Kaminga's ceiling, and maybe the Kings think this is superstar, if not A1 top 5 player, top 15 player.
They thought
in
he
the
was a
league.
superstar. They'd give up Keon Ellis, right? They'd give up whatever the Warriors wanted to land him.
There's a difference between thinking he is a superstar and thinking his ceiling is superstar, right?
Okay.
So, but if you think his ceiling is superstar, I don't think anyone believes Jabari Smith's ceiling is top 15, 20 players in the league. I think people believe it's really useful, strong defense, ability to shoot the three.
His outlook changed since Auburn. Let's put it that way.
To a degree, but this was always kind of his outlook, is like, you're probably not building your team around that guy, but he does a lot of the things you want a man of that height to do in the modern NBA, and he can be really, really useful to a really good team, which is what the Warriors are trying to be. And he hasn't been given the chance to do that for Houston. Who knows why? It could be that he's not capable or ready to do that, but he at least fits a profile of a big shooter who can play some defense in the paint that Steve Kerr would want out of that type of player. So, look, man, it sounds like a lot to get back for Kaminga, frankly.
It does.
If Houston is desperate to put somebody in the role of Fred VanVleet, obviously Malik Monk is a very different player, but he is also a proven commodity in a just roster spot where you mentioned they will not be replacing him with proven commodities, right? The replacements are Aaron Holiday, who's the closest to proven, and he's proven he's a bench player.
What if it was Monk and Pods and the Warriors leaned into DeAnthony Melton being healthy?
Right, or Buddy, or Moody, right? I think that's probably the deal you're talking about, Kaminga and one of those guys.
Coming up, there's only so many outcomes that can be derived from this whole Jonathan Kuminga, let's say, debacle. Which is the one that's going to make the most sense for the Warriors? Which is the one that is likely going to happen as the deadline approaches? We're talking about that coming up. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for kickoff with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. If your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love FanDuel because it's so versatile. You can put so many different bets in, from player props to futures, live lines, betting on the spread, taking an over-under. It's all there for you, and it is quick, easy, and of course, the best way to add a little more energy to your Sundays. It makes every game more exciting, whether you're watching your team or keeping an eye on your fantasy lineup. If you're ready to play, download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That is FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet. Who's it make least sense for in terms of, you said the Warriors getting Jabari or Tari seems like pretty fair. Malik Monk and Buddy to the Rockets, or Kaminga to the Kings? Who's getting the lowest end of the stick? Is it the Kings?
So you had Buddy in the original deal.
I put Buddy in there. Yeah, I don't know financially. I just threw him in there for shooting because Houston needs it.
Right, and I don't know if Buddy would be enough, and I don't know if Malik and Buddy make sense together. Right, maybe Pods or Moody probably is the guy they would ask for there, because you're getting another younger guy when you're giving away two pretty good young assets in Houston. But all of those guys, really, for a team that just lost Fred VanVleet and has aspirations of doing things now, I could see the value in any of those dudes, right? Probably Buddy the least, but I guess I probably see the least value in Buddy for those guys on this team. Moody, Pods, these are good young players who can do things to help you win, and we've seen it. So I can understand if what you just said, the reporting is wrong, right? Because that's the reporting, is that Houston is going to stand pat and give it a go with Reed Shepherd. And frankly, that's what I would do in their situation. I don't think they have a lot to lose by running a little short in the beginning of the season and seeing what they got in a guy who they drafted very high and didn't even look at last year, right? If they decide, hey, this is a championship team missing a guard, then I think that becomes a perfectly reasonable trade for them. I don't know if they'd want to trade both of those guys, but maybe one of them, and maybe it's just Kaminga, right? Or maybe whatever. There are options.
Maybe you get another team involved and there's draft picks. There's ways to look at it.
Exactly. Especially
when there's a will, there's a way. The question is,
the question fundamentally to me is,
does Houston want to get involved? That's the question.
Would Houston want to get involved in specifically adding a guard in exchange for one of their young wings, all of whom, you're not going to get Amen, right? But
no.
But just if you look at Eason and Smith alone, you can see why they would both fit better than Kaminga with the Warriors. And while neither of them may have the ceiling that he does, I think Steve Kerr would be more excited to use either of them. And at the end of the day, that matters. So, if you could get both of those guys, they're different players to me who are in a similar spot of, especially with Kevin Durant there, not likely to get more minutes than they have been getting. And Fred VanVleet being out doesn't really open a spot for either guy. So, yeah, it makes sense at a certain level. I'm not sure that is something that's likely to happen in the next 3 days. I think that is something more likely to happen in 3 months.
Yeah. Did you see the Sam Amick report that came out that the Warriors may be, still sniffing around with Malik Monk?
Yeah. And listen, they may feel like, hey, you guys, Kaminga and Aaron Turner, asked us to guarantee you a second year. We flipping did it, and now you got us out here looking like bums.
Yeah.
And you did a whole media tour about it. Like, what gives, brothers? What are we doing here? And I
think that was kind of like the final nail in the coffin, where it's just like there's no coming back from that, and we have to find something to do with him. Sacramento was interested. Let's reopen the negotiations and figure something out here.
I honestly think trading him for Malik Monk and a first-round pick right now would be a grave error. I really do. I think you'd be better off giving him a fully guaranteed 3-year deal than doing that. I think you'd be better off signing that, inflated, tradable qualifying offer.
Yeah.
Than trading him for Malik Monk, because somebody will give you more than Malik Monk and a middling draft pick. I'm just sure of it. Just like I was sure that they would end up in this situation if they continued to handle it the way they did for the last 3 years. I have been talking about this for years.
So we brought this up DNP night against the Clippers. You were irate, and I was saying, can we focus on Memphis before we get into the Kaminga talk? And then the Houston series came, and you were irate. And I said, Kolsky, will you shut up about Kaminga and focus on the Game 7 win? And you said, doomsday's coming, Chuck. You watch out. There is going to be a point, a fork in the road where we look at the situation and can point to how he was treated at the end of the season. Because if he goes into the playoffs playing 22, 24 minutes, is it this same setup? I mean, maybe so. He's been pissed for a while now, but I don't think it would have gotten to this point.
Because listen, the thing I said last week, and I still kind of believe, but a little less so since it's still not done, like, leaving $48 million on the table is a lot. When it was 12, that's one thing. But it would be pretty crazy to leave that on the table for the qualifying offer or whatever. It's pretty clear this isn't about money in that way. Because if it was, it would definitely be over. It's pretty clear to me that what Jonathan Kuminga is most concerned about in this moment is having a chance to be the player that he wants to be and believes he can be. Now, I'm not saying he's right about that, about being that player or to want that. But I think the reason that if I'm reading the tea leaves properly, the reason that third year matters to him, and we've had that report of like, oh, we'll go ahead and guarantee the third year and I'll believe your plan, is because what Joe Lacob, the I love Kaminga side of the front office, is selling to Kaminga is, look, man, we do like you. We do want you to be a star, and we want it to happen here. You just got to play ball. You got to be a team player for Steph Curry here. And fair or not, I think Kaminga is saying, well, I'm not just going to do it on faith, particularly based on how many times I have either demanded or received a guarantee and then had it pulled out from under my feet in 4 years here. So if you are really saying you want me to be the thing after Steph Curry, go ahead and give me that 3rd-year guaranteed, and we're on.
Well, they gave him the 3rd-year guaranteed,
no,
but it was
didn't.
3 years, $54 million.
Right. He's saying he's saying
Yes.
You want me to be a star when Steph Curry's gone. Give me not even star money, but like give me real money for the year when Steph Curry's gone. And again, I'm not necessarily defending or saying I would have chosen this approach, but there is a certain logic to it. And it does go beyond just, I want to make as much money as I can right now. Because if it was about that, I think you take the 2-year +1 deal. Because there's no way, I mean, if it's a team option, like realistically, that's either a 3. There's no way they're not going to pick up that option unless things go horribly. Like $25 million in 3 years in the NBA is going to be nothing. And
fair deal.
The Warriors are going to want to hold on to the asset then, just like they want to hold on to it now. So, like, you're not going to get that money, right? The guaranteed 2 years is very nearly $75 million guaranteed.
He's not going to be in the Bay Area in 3 weeks, let alone maybe 3 weeks, but he's not going to be here 3 years. I think that's moot point. I will say this, Kolsky, to interject real quick. He qualifying offer. Let's say he takes that and he's already through Aaron Turner. Turner said, JK will buy in if you give him what he wants. So qualifying offer, maybe it is what he wants at this point, but let's say that's not what he wants. He goes in. He's not bought in. Like, what is this? What's this situation going to turn into? Like, if you get a not bought in player that was slightly bought in when he came back from injury, you would think last year, and still was getting DNP'd in the most critical moments of the season, then you're just in a predicament that no one is happy about.
There's two things, a few things, but two main things that jump out to me about this. The first is, like, I think it's fair now to question whether he was bought in when he came back from injury, or at least whether Steve Kerr believed he was bought in to what Steve wanted Kaminga to do, and whether that is part of the fracture in the relationship or not. I do not know. I have no information on that. I'm merely speculating based on this, because if you're going to implicitly threaten a lack of buy-in, I'm now questioning how bought in you've been historically, right?
Coming up, Kolsky and I tie a ribbon on the Jonathan Kuminga talks. This will be the last time you hear from us, at least together, talking about Jonathan Kuminga unless some form of a deal is done. The final take on the qualifying offer next. When I found out SKIMS was making underwear for men, I was intrigued. I've heard so much about their quality from my friends and family, so I had to give it a try. And let me tell you, it does indeed live up to the hype. I've had issues with underwear in the past, whether it was fit, comfort, or just finding the right style, but SKIMS changed that for me. Their men's line offers variety and something for everyone, from boxer briefs to classic briefs, all designed with the perfect balance of comfort and style. My favorite, the Stretch 5 boxer brief. It's great for working out 5 times a week, you should say. 5 times the stretch. I felt like it was the missing link. They give me all the movement I need for working out without feeling like I'm walking around wearing gym clothes the rest of the day. Plus, they never lose their shape or ride up. And maybe it's in my head, but I swear when I'm doing those goblet squats, I can lift a little bit heavier just because of these Stretch 5 boxer briefs. They're great stuff. SKIMS. Visit skims.com to get started today. Shop SKIMS Mens at skims.com. Let them know we sent you. After you place your order, select podcast in the survey. Select Locked On Warriors in the drop-down menu that follows.
Like, I think it's fair now to question whether he was bought in when he came back from injury, or at least whether Steve Kerr believed he was bought in to what Steve wanted Kaminga to do. And whether that is part of the fracture in the relationship or not, I do not know. I have no information on that. I'm merely speculating based on this, because if you're going to implicitly threaten a lack of buy-in, I'm now questioning how bought in you've been historically, right? On the other side, I think we have to consider that is merely a negotiating tactic. Mm-hmm. And that, in fact, to our knowledge, no one has ever questioned Jonathan Kuminga's attitude or decency as a person throughout this process. I don't recall that. I don't recall any leaks about his practice habits or anything like that. And I recall every time someone has spoken about him, whether they were saying, hey, he can't help us, and that includes Steve Kerr, also saying he's been a total professional, right? So I don't necessarily believe he wouldn't be a professional. To me, the bigger issue is, does Steve Kerr find a way to make him a useful professional? And he's shown a lack of desire to do that. Obviously, because he thinks it's not a thing, right? I mean, Steve Kerr is not sabotaging the team. Like, he doesn't believe in Jonathan Kuminga as someone who can help in these circumstances for whatever reason. We don't need to get back into it. But as long as the coach believes that, you're kind of wasting, A, the talent in the player, and B, the spot on the roster and the money you're spending on him. So I don't know. I don't know how you reconcile that. Steve Kerr has said he will give it a chance to start the season if Kaminga's here. We'll see whether that's true.
Yeah. One more question for you. If Jonathan Kuminga does take the qualifying offer, and Aaron Turner's point about the most important thing for Kaminga is getting to next summer, unrestricted free agency, healthy. And that's the case. And his plan is to be on an exercise bike and have one of those weird NBA seasons where it's like JK is a ghost. He's not even around, that sort of a season. Many that are big believers in Kaminga think he's put enough on tape, and the NBA cares enough about potential to where he could skate by and still get $20-something million next offseason. I say absolutely not. You need a starting point to negotiate off of, which is why it would make sense to take some form of a deal, maybe even lower that balloon qualifying offer to have something to work with. But what is your stance there? Is he someone that's shown enough capabilities to where a team, if he sat out the entire season, the Warriors said, we want nothing to do with him, he's barely even around the facilities, we're just paying him to not be here, you think a team would really throw out $25 million and give him a long-term deal?
I don't think they actually would have to pay him for that scenario because he's a restricted free agent. So any potential contract he signs, they could match. And if they do not sign him, I think that's his fate. He has to just sit around. So I don't know how realistic that is. Again, all of these scenarios we're playing out that don't involve something being done in a peaceful way by Monday, they don't serve anybody. That does not serve the Warriors. If that happens, he's a free agent next summer. They've lost the contract slot for absolutely nothing. They cannot, as long as Steph and Draymond and Jimmy are on the books, add it again. They cannot sign a player at the 20 million plus level anymore alongside Steph Curry. And that dramatically hinders their...
Better hope Pods is an all-star.
Well, I mean, and then you're going to have to pay him. So, it's... And by the way, like...
That's coming.
Don't think Brandon Pajemski is taking a team discount. That's not happening. Not the way it happened with Moses Moody, especially if he's got Buddy Hield playing in front of him all year long. Like, do not think Brandon Pajemski is going to play nice when it comes to getting what he believes he deserves, because that dude thinks he's great. And, whatever. He's pretty good. So I think his market would probably be stronger than Kaminga's right now, frankly. So that would be a terrible scenario from my perspective for both parties, because I do not think it would be easy. And we don't totally know how this new triple apron cap situation affects free agency over a period of time. We haven't seen enough to know exactly what it's going to be. What it did this summer, combined with a lack of a lot of cap space, was kill everything. There was nothing really significant that could happen this offseason, in part because of the cap, in part because of teams in particular not having space, in part because half the league is waiting to see if Giannis demands a trade, right? There's all sorts of reasons these things happen. But to think you could sit out and make even close to what's in the offer that's already on the table is crazy to me. And I don't think Kaminga and Aaron Turner have been crazy yet. They have been aggressive and they have negotiated hard, but I don't think they've done anything insane just yet. So, if Monday passes, certainly if the qualifying offer date passes and nothing is done and they just totally passed on the guaranteed 2-year, third-year team option, I will be surprised and really, frankly, think they've made a huge mistake.
Kolsky, let's get this over with one way or the other. Let's get some real hoops back. This has been a long offseason. To those of you that have trudged through the mud with us, we've been in the trenches. That's the other thing,
Chuck. That's like 2 weeks till preseason, less than 2 weeks till preseason basketball. Whatever players are supposed to be on this crazy ass team are supposed to be on the floor in like 11 days. Yep. So they got to get this thing sorted and dusted. And whatever's happening, we all got to move on.
Hurry the hell up, everyone.
Please.
This is Locked On Warriors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Chuck, Walter, Matt Kolsky. We will see you soon.
Just get it done.
Please.